Welcome all you lovely people to another r/entitled parents video. Our first story of the day is by Little Lion 72, entitled Dad Controls Me My Entire Life? Thinks I'll keep contact with him after 18. My dad has always been entitled and narcissistic. He loves to have control over anyone he thinks is lesser than him. He's had control over me, my brother, my mom, and my brother's mom. Although I would love to mention the awful things he's done to my brother, this story is about how he's treated me and my mom. My mom would always tell me it was a mistake that she married my dad. She would tell my stepdad that I would end up finding out how awful my dad is eventually. She was right. My dad would control my mom, who she saw, what she would wear, where she would go, and more. A couple vivid stories I remember was my mom wearing a tank top and she wanted to leave the house. He told her to change and that she couldn't wear that. He would also prevent her from going to church so she wouldn't meet any men. She ended up meeting my stepdad at work. Growing up, I was kind of a daddy's girl. I didn't see my dad as evil until I got older. In middle school, I had a cat, Mr. Kittles. Kittles would run away often. One of the ways he got out was jumping a large white fence in the backyard. I was outside with my dad and Kittles one time, and I saw him trying to jump the fence. I grabbed a hold of him before he got over. My dad told me to just let the cat go because he didn't want to be here. My dad ended up taking him to the vet without a carrier. We had one, and I never saw him again. There were times he was homophobic around me and to me. I came out to my stepmom, his wife, one time, and she outed me to my dad, even though I told her not to. He was upset with me and banned me from having sleepovers with anyone, including the best friend I had for 8 years at the time. I cried for 3 days and my mental health was awful. I was later hospitalized because of my mental health, and I told them he was emotionally abusive to me. He got pissed at me and told me not to call him that, even though it was true. Once, I bought a cropped hoodie and I was feeling confident about my stomach because I wasn't as chubby then. He told me to never wear that at his house and never bring it over again. I continue to wear a different crop hoodie that is oversized on me. I posted a mental health positivity post on Twitter and mentioned my experience with depression. I mentioned a weapon he had. I didn't say it was his though, and the thoughts I had when I saw it. He found the post and told me to deactivate all of my social media accounts because it made him look bad. That was the first time I said no to him. He told me not to post stuff like that because I'm still severely depressed. I've made so much progress and don't consider myself to have major depression anymore, and that I still have the chance with harming myself. It's a very small chance, but I haven't in months and I've come such a long way. I wanted to stay home alone this weekend, and my mom made me ask my dad. I was terrified to say anything to him because his immediate answer would be no. I have a car, a job, and I go to school for culinary so I can make my own meals. His reaction was so over the top, and I know he's going to yell at me when I go over next. Basically, he asked my mom if me staying alone was a joke to him because of my history with depression. Honestly, I'm much more depressed when I'm at my dad's. I'm miserable there. I'm 17 years old and he expects me to keep in contact with him and see him constantly after I turn 18. He told me I should live with him when I go off to college. I told him that's not happening. He always tells me I'm able to make my own choices, but what he really means is I can make my own choices if it means I can be with him. These stories aren't even all of them. There's so much he's done and said, so much he's done to make me or my mom feel guilty. He has constant control of me and I'm saving my own money to get my own things and live on my own. I'm done with him, and I'm just waiting until I can finally escape. Do you know anybody that's narcissistic like this? Let me know in the comments down below. Personally, growing up, I've definitely been around people that were exactly like this. Controlling, their opinion is the only way it should be. It's not fun. Our next story is by Bros. Crazy parents, I have a daughter, so I would kill a baby girl. It's important to note that I was mostly just a witness to this event. I had a brief interaction with the entitled mother in this story, but the rest mostly just happened next to me. A lot of the speech won't be perfectly accurate, as my memory isn't perfect. This all started a little over a week ago. I was taking a week off from college and work to go on a vacation with my family. The issue was that I didn't have a car, and none of my family had the time to head all of the way up to my college to pick me up. That meant I had the pleasure of spending several hours on cramped public buses to meet them halfway. Obviously the perfect start to a vacation. A few hours into the trip, I was transferring onto the next bus on my route. There were several other people around me transferring to the same bus. One of them was a single black dad. It becomes relevant that he's black later on. He was taking his daughter with him, who was this adorable baby girl that looked to be a few months shy of a year old. Me and several other passengers spent time smiling and waving to her, and she seemed to love it. There was also another couple that was mostly staying in the back, who would become an issue later. We'll call them Entitled Dad and Entitled Mom. Soon we were all loading up our luggage in the back of the bus. The nice bus driver was helping out with all of this when she pulls Entitled Dad and Entitled Mother to the side. I happened to be close enough to listen in. The bus driver said, "Hey, I just talked with your past driver that brought you here. They said that you caused a lot of trouble on your way, and I want to make sure you understand that I won't tolerate that on my bus." The Entitled Mother says, "Oh, don't worry, we were just getting stressed during the last hour of the trip. We won't cause any trouble." Now, Entitled Mother sounded genuine, so I didn't think too much of this interaction. It seemed like she might have some sort of anxiety disorder, so I didn't want to judge too much, especially without details about what exactly had happened on the last bus. Entitled Dad even seemed to be determined to prove that they would be good riders, and began helping others load up their luggage onto the bus. Anyway, we all got on the bus and were soon on our way. I got to sit next to single black dad and his daughter. He was nice and chatted with me and a nice elderly lady that was sitting behind me. Everything was going just fine for the first hour or so. But things began to change when Entitled Mother came walking up from the back and took a seat right in front of me. She leaned her chair back, seeming to be trying to calm down about something. Again, thinking that she was having some sort of anxiety attack, I didn't mind much and just tried to give her space. That changed when she turned around to talk to me. She began talking about how she was going on a trip to Southern California and wanted to make sure we were actually going in the right direction. I tried to be helpful, pulling up Google Maps on my phone and assuring her that the bus was heading in a direction that would lead her closer to where she wanted. However, in my efforts to help, I didn't notice a crucial detail. Entitled Mother wasn't wearing a mask. We were in a cramped bus, driving for hours in the middle of a pandemic. Now, I may not have noticed it, but single dad certainly did. He turned to her and spoke up. "Hey, if you're going to be up here and talking so much, you need to be wearing a mask. I have a baby girl here and I don't want her getting sick." The Entitled Mother says, "Oh, I didn't know we needed to wear a mask in here." The single dad says, "We had to sign a notice saying we would wear a mask before we could purchase the ticket to the bus." The Entitled Mother says, "My mask is in my bag in the back. I'm allergic to cotton, so my mask needs to be made of satin." I have no clue if this is actually a thing that happens, but it is what she said. Entitled Mother eventually walked up to the front of the bus and grabbed one of the disposable masks that were offered there. She then moved to the back of the bus, seeming a little huffy that she had been called out like that. For about a minute or two, things were quiet, until Entitled Dad's voice came booming from the back of the bus. "Hey, who are you to tell my wife what to do?" The single dad turned around to address the man. "I have a daughter with me. I don't want her to be at any more risk than she needs to be." "You're just acting tough because you're black. I'm not afraid of black guys. I have a knife and I'd kill you in an instant." The single dad says, "What the heck, man? I'm just taking care of my baby here." "I don't care that you have a baby. I have a daughter too, so I wouldn't care if I had to kill your baby with you." Like, what the heck is that logic? The single dad says, "You're threatening my daughter now? What the heck is wrong with you? You think that because you're black you deserve some kind of special treatment? I'm not afraid of you. Nobody else cared about us not wearing masks until you came along." The single dad says, "Yeah, well, I'm glad to be the one man who speaks up against you." The shouting match continued for a bit, with most of the rest of us just watching with wide eyes. Threats were thrown from both directions, but the most aggressive threats were clearly coming from Entitled Dad. I'm not entirely sure that I agree with the single dad with everything that he said, but I don't at all blame him for being angry after his daughter's life was threatened. At some point, the single dad turns to the bus driver, calling out to her, "Hey, these two are threatening me and my daughter, and the man says he has a knife. Can you do anything about it?" The bus driver says, "They're causing issues again? Alright, that's it." The bus driver calls out to the back of the bus, loud enough for the crazy couple to hear. "Hey, I told you that if you cause trouble again, you were done. You two are getting off as soon as we get to a place to stop." We were on a highway at this moment, so the bus driver couldn't exactly just pull over immediately. So there were several minutes of tension in the bus while she looked for the nearest stopping point. Luckily, nobody did anything for this period of time. When the bus driver began pulling the bus up to a gas station parking lot, entitled mother and entitled dad came marching down the bus. They must have been thinking about trying to assert some sort of control over the situation after they had been told to get off. The entitled mother says, "Stop the bus right now, we want to get off." The bus driver says, "Yes, you are getting off right now." The bus driver opened the bus door for the crazy couple to get off. But because they were at the back of the bus, they had to pass by the single dad on their way out. So, of course, entitled dad had to stop to scream at him more. "How about you come off of this bus with us and we'll see who's tough?" The single dad says, "I'd knock you to the floor in an instant. I have a knife and there's nothing you could do to me." At this point, several other passengers on the bus got up and began putting themselves between single dad and entitled dad. I wish I could say I was brave enough to do the same thing, but I was too afraid that someone was about to get stabbed, so I just watched with wide eyes. The bus driver began demanding louder for the crazy couple to get off, while the two men continued yelling at each other. Entitled mother kept calling everyone rude and making strange and horrible threats, like that she would eat the baby's brains. Eventually, the bus driver called the cops. This finally got the crazy couple to get off the bus and demand that their stuff be gotten out of the back of the bus. But as the police were called, everything had to wait until they got there. When the cops arrived, everyone who had gotten between the two men had to get off to make statements to the cops. The single dad and his daughter got off to talk to them as well. Apparently, the crazy couple claimed they hadn't threatened single dad and his daughter, but with so many witnesses who saw the events, there was no chance that claim would work. In the end, the single dad and his daughter got back on the bus, as well as everyone who made statements. Entitled mother and entitled dad didn't get back on. It was a bit of a delay, but we were on our way again a little bit later. It was certainly an interesting beginning to my vacation. I feel sorry for anyone in Southern California that might have to deal with that couple if they ever made it to their vacation. Yikes. I kinda hope they didn't make it to South California. I'm hoping they made it to the South jail cell. Imagine making threats like that and just walking away from it. Again, yikes. And our final story of the day is by Risa. Father gets knocked out. Background, my little vertically challenged, she doesn't mind it when I say it, cousin, 17, has high-functioning autism, HFA, and gets stressed out mostly from strong noises. My uncle, little cousin's father, and my mother's younger brother was extremely spoiled by my grandmother and still thinks he is awesome. Just a huge man-child that tries to bully everyone, and me, but I'm mostly irrelevant in the story. And I have her permission to post it here since she doesn't have Reddit. Story: this happened 5 to 6 years ago at a birthday party of my uncle. We went to play games. I got her into gaming and anime, so she asked me to go with her in her room because, well, she couldn't handle the loud talking of the family anymore. We were in her room for a half hour, and my uncle comes barging in yelling and screaming at her for being disrespectful, and grabbed her by the arm and dragged her back into the living room. I had to follow, of course. When they were almost down the stairs, out of nowhere, she punched him straight on the jaw. She knocked him out cold but broke 2 fingers in the process. It was dead silent and everyone was looking at her. She ran back to her room and locked the door. Some gave a thumbs up because, to be honest, my uncle was annoying and now they had gunpowder against him. My aunt asked me to check on my little cousin. She was shaken and told me she just snapped and had pain in her hand. I am not medically trained, but a swollen hand that was the size of an American football was enough to let my sister, whom is a pediatrician, child doctor, look at it. So we went back downstairs to the kitchen. So we get downstairs and he was already conscious. Woke up maybe 2 minutes from what my sister told me. The rest of the family started joking how awesome his daughter is and gave her a thumbs up. My sister looked at her hand and concluded she needed to go to the hospital for an x-ray. So we went to the hospital and got a message from my aunt asking about little cousin and asked me if little cousin could sleep at my place for the night. I answered no problem. For 2 months, my uncle didn't talk to her. And every birthday he goes to, he gets wrecked by the family when he says something witty or tries to complain. I don't care who you are, you can't just go around grabbing people and dragging them down the stairs. Even if you're related in a relationship, it doesn't matter. Especially with somebody with disabilities that is liable to especially freaking out in situations like that. The uncle got what they had coming. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like. And if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.